Here we go. This rusty, filthy, and battered thing is an old Soviet desk clock from the 1950s. It's a Lighthouse brand model. And the master restorer, taking it apart right now, is from Ukraine, even throughout the war. PSV Restoration kept up regular updates. This legendary restorer doesn't have a catchy nickname yet. So based on his restoration style, techniques, and background, feel free to give him one. Now, after removing the dial, you can clearly see the clock's inner structure. It's quite simple. Just a wooden frame, paired with this rugged-looking clock movement. We've restored quite a few clocks over the years. From Swiss clocks with obsessive precision to Japanese movements with compact designs. Their movements feel a lot more like finely crafted works of art. But this Soviet movement here has a completely different vibe. It has no complex decor, nor any stunning microstructures. Just thick plates, sturdy pillars, and large gears. You could say all these parts are noticeably bulkier than European movements from the exact same era. That's why I use the word rugged to describe this movement, and this design reflects the usual Soviet industrial mindset. It doesn't need to be refined, but it must be highly reliable, even after decades. These parts still have no structural damage at all. They look to be in excellent shape. So, after taking it apart, he uses a sandblaster to clean up this faceplate, the pillars, and the mainspring, removing all the rust. And the abrasive material is white corundum. After sandblasting, he gives this a nice coat of matte black paint. As for the shafts and pillars, they get a thermal bluing treatment for protection. Unlike our previous methods, which were a bit different, here he uses an electric oven for an even heat. Is that the benefit is thorough and uniform. Plus, it allows precise temperature control. However, he sets the heat all the way to 450 degrees. A little too much. It's best to keep it between 300 and 400. Too high of a heat makes the oxide layer thick, causing it to flake off easily. Next, for these brass movement plates, he still relies on the white sandblasting method to clean them up. To prevent accidental damage, he drops the air pressure down a bit. After sandblasting, a quick brings back the metallic shine of these brass plates. Now, to ensure gear train precision, he can't use sandblasting here. Instead, he switches to this red rust remover to clean them off. Once the rust is completely gone, they also get a bright, shiny polish. Finally, he uses an ultrasonic to remove any leftover wax and grime. And with that, the container part is good to go. Next, for this heavily rusted mainspring section, he uses citric acid for a chemical rust removal process. Oh, and he adds some hydrogen peroxide here. It breaks down to release active oxygen, which helps to oxidize the grease and organic matter, loosening the rust layer. Lastly, it's the balance wheel's since turn. It doesn't need rust removal. It just needs a careful through the ultrasonic cleaner. And if you paid close attention here, you might have noticed that even though the movement seems tough, rugged, and built on sheer force, the balance wheel area right still here has the jeweled bearings it needs. It gives you the feeling of a gentle touch, hidden within raw power. It's surprisingly refined. It still has the crucial details where it counts. Now then, we can move on to assembling the movement. And this assembly process, compared to those finely tuned movements, is honestly as simple as it gets. I bet most of our longtime fans could practically do this with their eyes closed. Now that the movement is put together, it's still missing a key to wind the mainspring. So our master restorer has to make a new one. Using some basic machining, he'll craft a winding key that fits perfectly. The main body of the key gets shaped on a lathe and a milling machine. As for the handle, he'll cut it out using a laser. Finally, put the two parts together, and the new key is all done. After winding the mainspring with the new key, we can finally hear the heartbeat of this Soviet movement once again. Also, the movement's tuning knob is missing too, so he has to make one of those as well. And with that, the movement section is pretty much wrapped up. Next up is tackling the outer wooden frame. First, he removes all the leftover decorative veneer, piece by piece. Then he grabs a sander to clean off all the leftover glue from the wood, along with any splinters, defects, and dirt, and squaring up the edges too. Next, he uses wood glue to stick these frame pieces back together to rebuild the shape. Now, a lot of people might question wood glue's strength. Let's put it this way. If it were to break again, it definitely wouldn't snap at the glue line. The reason for this is pretty easy to grasp. Besides the strength of the glue itself, wood isn't totally solid and sealed. It has countless tiny pores. The glue seeps right into those pores, locking the two sides firmly together. It's like having thousands of microscopic claws. Of course, it's secure. And just a moment ago, he even made two brand new support legs for the frame. So, the next thing is the decorative veneer for this frame. Just as you can see right here in the video, he uses a laser cutter to precisely cut out the veneer needed for every single section. Then, using wood glue, he glues these veneer pieces one by one into their spots. Once the glue dries and fully sets, to sand down the edges and give the whole thing a protective clear varnish, specifically meant for wood. Now he can finally install the assembled movement into the frame. The last things to handle are the dial, bezel, hands, and back cover. Following his usual routine, he starts off with sandblasting to strip the paint and remove the rust. Finally, he sprays a fresh coat of white paint on the dial. So how should he recreate the numbers on it? The answer is laser engraving. Just like this, using a high-energy laser, vaporize the white paint in the shape of the numbers. In a way, you could almost consider this action as a form of laser cleaning. Once the engraving is done, since the exposed metal numbers have on the dial protection, he applies a cold bluing solution right over them. This creates a neat black oxide for protection. And this black protective film also perfectly fills in the engraved lines. Now that the dial is securely in place, it's time for the hands. He also sandblasts them and treats them with the bluing solution. This aluminum bezel here doesn't need sandblasting, just a good sanding and polishing. The main issue isn't the finish, it's that it's missing its matching protective lens. So, he turns to machining once again, using an acrylic board to precisely craft the exact lens needed here. Finally, he attaches which was sandblasted and painted black. And just like that, this Wuling S Soviet Lighthouse desk clock is officially fully restored. Let's follow the camera for a quick look at the before and after contrast. Looking at it now that it's completely finished, I've got to say, those Soviet designs back then really had something special. Well, that's it for this restoration. Thanks for watching. Video. Please like and subscribe. Time to say goodbye for now. Thanks again for joining us here in Max's Restoration Zone. Bye.